Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, and, well, we come to our last Robert Zemeckis film, part of Robert Zemeckis Movie Week. And that's right, you know what it is, and as I teased in the last review video, yep. Yeah, this movie based off of a true story, biopic and such. And not to mention that this is based off of a book that was written by What's-Him-Face, who is betrayed by the one and only Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Yes, that's right, guys. I am reviewing, not to mention, this film is celebrating its anniversary. And yeah, to close off Robert Zemeckis Movie Week, I am reviewing The Walk. Yes, The Walk. Yes. This movie, all about the story of acrobatic performer Philippe Petit. Yeah, I think I'm saying his last name right. Coming straight from Paris, France. Yes. His great talent of, standing on rope and wire and such, and keeping his balance, that whole act, yeah. And how, in 1974, he would pull off a impossible, crazy stunt. Something like that's never really happened until it would happen around August of 1974. Him going from one World Trade Center to the next, starting with the South Tower, making his way to the North Tower, then coming back to the South Tower. And even after he would perform that crazy stunt, going from one Twin Tower to the next, well, the praise that he would get, and with his talents, and how he would become a citizen of New York and continue what he loved doing best, keeping his balance on rope and such, and, the people of New York appreciating him and, even giving him a pass, and living in New York and such. Yeah. And, the World Trade Centers, they started off not being very appreciative and so on, just some of the characters in the movie just, making a few comments of them just being, two giant, storage towers and such, because, well, as we know, the World Trade Centers, the buildings were for office work and so on, but what Philippe would do, he would technically make the World Trade Centers famous. Nothing would be the same after what he would do. Even when, sadly, we of course know what would happen to the two towers. Yeah, like what happened in '93, and most notably, infamously and such, you get my point, in 2001. Yeah, so, yeah, I'd imagine how Philippe must have felt when those attacks took place, and when they finally were gone, It's unfortunate, but yeah. Overall, because, yeah, what The Walk had in store, / had to offer, with a great cast of talents, whom would betray Philippe. Not to mention, Philippe himself would have heavy involvement in this movie, and personally train Joseph Gordon-Levitt with, standing on rope and such, Nice on him. Hey, if Joseph Gordon-Levitt, doing that, with him doing this, if he was gonna be doing this, who else better to train him than Philippe himself, right? So, yeah. And with Robert Zemeckis' direction, what he brought to The Walk, and also with the music and talent by the one and only Alan Silvestri, and yeah, because Alan Silvestri doing pretty much most of Zemeckis' movies, doing the music and score, yeah. And great visuals, just, yeah, it's amazing. Alright, so, as always, for me, read the description / the story. As a boy, Philippe Petit dreams of performing daring feats for dazzled crowds. As an adult, his life's ambition comes true when he becomes a high-wire artist who stares death in the face with every step. Under the guidance of mentor Papa Rudy, the French daredevil devises a plan to walk on a tight rope, attached to the north and south towers of the World Trade Center. With help from his team, and against all odds, Petite attempts the seemingly impossible stunt on August 7th, 1974. Okay, so, getting into the film itself, because, like, I knew, of course, what I was going to get myself into was obviously when the moment would happen, when he would make that daredevil crazy stunt going from one Twin Tower to the next, But apart from that, because I didn't know what else to expect, because there's a lot more than just, when the time happens, that he is going to make, the impossible in the month of August. Originally, he was going to do it on the 6th, but, it got delayed to the next day. Nothing too bad, right? Just, but he did have a schedule. Hey, I do too, and I'm sure you guys do too. Anyways. But, the story of Philippe, and not to mention that Philippe, as mentioned, played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he actually, I didn't know about this, that he is the narrator of this movie. And he is standing on top of the Statue of Liberty, with what she holds. And, he's telling us directly, at us, the audience, the story of where it all began and where it ends and so on. Philippe, in his early beginnings in the 1970s, he was trying. He was trying his best. Wasn't popular or anything like that. And life in Paris, France for Philippe, not really easy. And how he got into this business with him doing, acrobats, and standing on a rope and such. When he was very young, he actually snuck into a circus, and Boy Petite, aka Young Petite, being played by Soliman Perini. I think I'm saying it right, he snuck into a circus, and what he saw would change his life forever, and thus he started training himself doing this stunt. And unfortunately, this did not satisfy his father, and Petite's father being played by Patrick Baby. I didn't know that was his last name. This didn't satisfy him, and when he would perform out in the streets, the crowd seemed to love it, and Petite would always draw a circle because he needed his space, and anybody who would step their foot over the circle, he would step on it, or, his unicycle would run over their feet and such. And they would be okay with it. I guess, they understood eventually. Sometimes he would get chased down by the police, or sometimes, he would get arrested. We do see that happening a little later. Geez, not even the police can appreciate his talent. He's not doing anything illegal. I mean, he's just performing out in the streets. Like, mimes, for example. There's mimes out in Paris, France. What's wrong with that? But anyways, I guess, because that was the 1970s, and what he was specifically doing, I don't know, but, yeah. And there was even a moment where, because Petite's father booted him out. God. Sure, okay, it's understandable he doesn't appreciate and think it's good for his son, but to kick him out? Oh my gosh. Even Petite's mother was upset by this, and there was really nothing that she was going to do about this? Really? What's with you, woman? And Petite's mother, being played by Mary Turgeon, I think I'm saying her last name right, and we don't get that much of Petite's parents. That's all we get. I mean, we see a few glimpses of them, and, when we see his father not being appreciative and not liking what he does, and then when he boots him out, then, that's the last we see of them. Golly. And and presumably, because, and even in this movie, Philippe never saw his parents again. So yeah, I mean, not even in the could the movie not even like show them once more? Like maybe they would be more appreciative, especially his father. That goes for his father. Could we have seen them and they would have been aware of what their son did in New York at the end of the movie? I'm just saying, but anyways. But still, while Philippe is performing out in the streets of Paris, France, he comes across another street performer who plays guitar and is a good singer named Annie, being played by Charlotte Le Bon. And Philippe is interested and starts to grow feelings towards Annie. And when Philippe starts to performing, all the attention is drawn away from Annie, and now people are paying attention to Philippe. However, it was never Philippe's intentional for him to do that, because he even explained to Annie that, he wanted to keep his distance away from another artist, and it doesn't take too long for both Philippe and Annie to really grow feelings for one another. And even Philippe offering deals to Annie that he will not perform when she's out performing, and even offering her a bottle of wine and so on, and yeah. And, even before Philippe crossed paths with Annie, there was at one point where Philippe, when he was performing, a little girl offered him like a ball or something and did some tricks with the ball, making it disappear, getting it behind her ear, and then it, goes into his mouth, but then it caused like a toothache or something. I don't know, just something messed up with it. The ball messed up his teeth in some way. And when going into the dentist to get his teeth checked out, him sitting in the waiting room and noticing magazine and such, and what he sees in the magazine, something just hits him, and just what he sees is an advertisement and such that, these two giant towers are being built in New York, and they are soon yet to be finished and such. And from that moment, he starts to have a dream that, in fact, when a little earlier he was hoping to, place his rope and go from one building to the next, that whole thing. Well, he finds what he's looking for, the Twin Towers. And when he gets together with Annie, him sharing his dream with her, and mentioning the Twin Towers and such, and she starts to like and believe in his dream and such, and yeah, like I said, they hit it off right there. It doesn't take too long, especially for Annie. So now, Annie, being with Philippe, and being an accomplice, of Philippe, and another new face steps in, who would be another one of Philippe's accomplice, if I'm saying that right. Jean, let me see, I'm sorry, no, the other Jean. I almost said the other character by the name of, first name Jean. No, this is the one. Jean-Louis, being played by Clement Samboni. He takes interest in Philippe and with what he does, and he's a photographer, and he basically, from right there and then, becomes Philippe's official photographer. Also, Philippe, he would cross paths with someone who is a part of a circus. I think he has the runner of this circus, and Philippe, like, sneaking in, trying to cross the rope, but, he gets caught and is told to get out and such by Papa Rudy. Yeah, Papa Rudy, being played by Ben Kingsley. Yes, the one and only Sir Ben Kingsley. That's awesome, yeah. So Ben Kingsley, who plays Papa Rudy, as the movie proceeds, the relationship that grows with them, and Papa Rudy technically being a mentor to Philippe, teaching him about, with the wires and cable, and even Papa Rudy allowed Philippe to be a part of his team, the circus and such. Philippe did not perform, but whenever the tent would be empty and such, he would perform on the ropes, yeah. So yeah, so, and to speed things up, because, yeah, over time, and, you know, with the narration that Philippe tells us, and, well, there's one moment where he performs at a festival in France, at a park. Papa Rudy convinced the mayor for Philippe to do this act, and, yeah, that was not a good time to do that, because there was a fishing contest happening, and the fishermen out in the lake were drunk, and they were insulting Philippe. Like, bad timing. Why? Couldn't he have done that? Couldn't they have had him wait and do this when the fishing contest? Yeah, that just doesn't seem right. And unfortunately, Philippe, he loses his balance, and yeah. Unfortunately, because, yeah, with Jean-Louis and Annie being upset for him, and I think, yeah, the same goes for Papa Rudy, just, because I think he's kind of a bit embarrassed by this, but, you know. But you can blame the fishermen, you know, because they were too rowdy and drunk, just, you know, being, you know, not very polite, you know, and so on. And there was another photographer that took pictures of poor Philippe and such. Also, something else that Papa Rudy teaches Philippe is, you know, bowing and showing appreciation and such, you know, bowing to the audience and so on, and to do it in his heart, with what Papa Rudy says, yeah, and very important with what Papa Rudy tells Philippe, and how near the end of the movie when he does that, but until I get there, yeah. So yeah, then at one point, Philippe, in order to redeem himself after what happened at the park, well, he and Jean-Louis, and also there was a new face that stepped in, a part of Philippe's team, Jeff/Jean Francois, if I'm even saying his last name right, being played by Cesar Dombo, if I'm even saying his full name right. Again, you know me sometimes. Jeff steps in and helping out, being a part of Philippe's team. Well, point being is that Philippe and Jean-Louis, because they make their way to Notre Dame, and when Notre Dame is closed for the evening, well, the opportunity for them to get in, they have a key, thankfully, and place the rope and wires from one tower to the next. You know, you've seen Notre Dame, and you know exactly. So that's what happens, and when morning rises, and when the visitors arrive at Notre Dame, well, they see what Philippe is doing, and, well, he gets applause and such, and right there, he's redeemed. But, of course, he ultimately gets captured by the police, and yeah, but of course he's let go, and it's established later on that the police, especially in France, they don't know what to do with him, so, you know, they just let him go. So, after that, well, Philippe, he is still wanting to accomplish his dream by going to New York and to, well, do this crazy daredevil stunt from one tower to the next, and eventually they do arrive at New York City, Philippe and Annie, and, well, they're amazed how big and tall these two towers are, and, well, Philippe and Annie, they manage to make their way up close to the towers and ultimately make their way inside of one of them. And Philippe, at one point, has Annie go wait back in the hotel, and if he doesn't, and according to him, what he says to Annie, if she doesn't see him in 5 hours, then he'll be in jail. So him making his way inside of the tower, one of the towers some more, and what he sees and such, and throughout the rest of the film, well, because at times they would constantly analyze, go through the entire towers, you know, and to make sure, like, how long do the security guards do their job and such, you know, and what time they are off duty, and, well, obviously there would be a few security guards, you know, working the night shift and such, night guards, and, yeah, and measuring the towers, and, you know, the ropes, going from one tower to the next, etc., and new faces that they would come face to face with, like one of them being, say, it's Barry Greenhouse, being played by Steve Valentine. Yeah. He was aware of Philippe. He knows who Philippe is, and he actually was present when Philippe did that stunt at Notre Dame, yeah. And he actually is a part of the Twin Towers, and he's willing to help out, yeah. And other people that we see that help out Philippe, well, there's Jean Perry, because there's at one point where they have to get, radio spawns like communication devices. Jean Perry, who works there, suggests them that they should use walkie-talkies. They would be much better, but Philippe, he wants to go with something old and such that really isn't being produced and such anymore. Radio phone and such. You know what it is. You've seen the movie. But yeah. And, Jean Perry, he actually can speak French. And he goes by JP for short, yeah. And Jean Perry, a.k.a. JP, played by James Badge Dale. So he becomes a part of their team. Philippe calling it the Fisher Industrial Fence Company. Yeah, so, but then more new faces step in, and thanks to JP, there's David being played by Benedict Samuel, and Albert being played by Ben Schwartz, aka the voice of Sonic the Hedgehog. But more than that, I've seen him more than just voicing Sonic, like he voices, I think it's one of them, Huey, Dewey, and Louie from the DuckTales series on Disney XD. You know who he voices, yeah. Yep, so yeah, and I don't think I really recognized that was Ben Schwartz. Huh. I don't know why. I mean, I guess it's just one of those things, Also, I didn't talk about Papa Rudy that much still, because, yeah, there are times where things do get a bit intense between Philippe and Papa Rudy. Even when, there's one moment where Annie tells Philippe that he should apologize to Papa Rudy. And, yeah, things settle down at one point, and when Philippe apologizes, even, still, the more help that Papa Rudy gives to Philippe, and even offering to Philippe a piece of string and such from his grandfather to guard it well, and so on. That's very nice. And to use that rope, and so on. Because, yeah, they've got to use string and rope, just so on, yeah. Anyways, so, yeah. The more help that Philippe has got now, and with the appliances and stuff that they are going to have, from the cables, the rope, wire, everything, yeah. And Philippe has a date, a specific date when he wants to do this. August 6th. And he's going to stick with that no matter what. He's not letting this dream down. He's not going to let it die and so on. But despite the fact that, yeah, at a certain point, because as much as, they are still willing to help out Philippe, some of them say that, he's a madman, and with what he's doing. But, even Annie, taking Philippe's defense, and, yeah, even, because even Jean-Louis as well, and so on, but still, yeah. And, yeah, I mean, there's no denying, because Philippe, in this movie, and obviously in reality, he was a madman with what he was doing, but I'd say in a good way, don't you think? Because look what would happen when he would do this, So, anyways, and even Philippe, because he was, there was one moment where, he was hammering a box, and he was calling that a coffin, and he was starting to have fears and doubts and such, and a little intense moment between Philippe and Annie, and about death and so on, jeez. And there's one thing even Annie pointed out to Philippe. He never thanked his fellow team members, those that were helping him, that they were willing to help him do this. He never once thanked them. But he did. He freaking woke them up with the hammer, and just all he wanted to do and tell them was, thank you. God. And they went back to sleep, so, yeah. So, yeah. August 6th is about to approach and such, and, and here's another thing, because I mentioned this earlier, but still, the visual effects that were done in The Walk, just fantastic. They were fantastic. Bringing the World Trade Centers back to life. They looked amazing. You know, the attention to detail, the up-close shots, and even when, like, I get, like, a few moments where the camera rises, it goes up in the air, and so on. Even shots with the rope and everything just... that was amazing. Definitely. Yeah, because, you know, having it, you know, obviously, because they'd have to have it to be accurate where exactly those World Trade Centers were, the specific spots in New York City. That's important. And, well, because, you know, and especially since, yeah, this is the 1970s, and, you know, movies never fail with, you know, having the right, accurate vehicles, the wardrobe and such, depending on what movie is set and which decade and such, like, you know, 50s, 60s, 70s, you know what I'm saying, just, yeah, never fails, and that, of course, goes for The Walk. Yeah, so anyways, so still to speed things up, because, yeah, how far they've come, and they're getting there, because, yeah, the moment arrives when, you know, they start to make their way into New York, pretending to be construction guys, and, yeah, the many disguises that Philippe wore to spend a lot of time in the towers, from being a construction guy to, you know, being an employee and such. And, oh, there was one moment, can't forget to mention this, where when he was taking pictures, and, yeah, because, oh, jeez, because he was wearing a shoe, he was wearing shoes, of course, he accidentally stepped on a piece of wood that had a nail, went through his foot, oh, jeez, but he managed to recover from it, have it be bandaged up and such. But he was, even with that happening to him, he was still going to do it, and he does so. Well, that takes mad skills, and, you know, very brave of him, so yeah. Yeah, so, again, where I was, because, yeah, them making their way into, yeah, the South Tower, pretending to be construction guys, and pretend to, like, the security guys and such, that they are from the Fisher Industrial Fence Company, and they're supposed to be delivering something, especially way up top on the South Tower. And, well, because there's at one point where they can't get up top, and the day goes by, and, well, because, you know, they were still there the whole time, but thankfully, and thanks to JP, they managed to get up top to the building. And to name the other cast members of this movie, there's Outdoor Cafe Man and Woman, and there's Woman in Chalk Circle, Boy in Chalk Circle, Gendarami, well, there's two of them that go by that name, being played by Martin Lefebvre, if I'm saying that right, Philippe Bertrand, if I'm getting that right, Circus High Wire Performer, played by Jade Kendar Martin, Texian Tourist Woman, played by Kat Lemieux, if I'm saying that right, and Texas Tourist Man, played by Larry Day. Young Girl with Candy, being played... Oh, so it was Candy. Okay, that's right. Well, I mean, it was a candy ball. So, yeah. Played by Laurence Deschanel, if I'm getting that right. Fisherman. Yeah, a lot of them that go by the name Fisherman. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, yeah. Yeah, and also portly photographer, played by Vlad Stokovnicki, if I'm saying that right, and Notre Dame, two police officers from Notre Dame, being played by Philippe Souzy and Philippe Hartman. Hey, two that go by the name Philippe. That's cool. Yeah, so, and someone else that I can't forget to mention because, yeah, responsible for having a huge part of the towers. Yeah, but I'll get to him later. Anyways, so, yeah, and also, yeah, the more narration that we get from Philippe is nice, and I like how there's one moment, and even when it's nighttime, and they're in the World Trade Centers, well, it's nighttime when we cut back to Philippe narrating the story. That's pretty cool. Nice attention to detail. Yeah, so the further they make their way into the South Tower, and they're making their way up top, and this one guy who was like, running the elevator, just, watch your fingers. He says that twice. Once the first time they're there, and then very later on in the movie, but until I get there. Yeah, so anyways, those that made it further to up there, yeah, from Philippe and Jeff and David, yeah. Well, because with them getting the stuff set up and ready and planning to head up there outside, up top of the tower, and with JP, he had to go back down and such, and also catch up with Annie, because Annie, she's down there in the streets of New York with binoculars, and when JP catches up and runs up with Annie, yeah. And this very sweet of her, because she was not going anywhere. She was going to stay there the whole time until when dawn approached, and the next morning everything would be ready and set up, and thus Philippe would do what he wanted to do. Yeah, and JP, being concerned and, making sure if Annie would be okay, and her assuring and convincing him that, yeah, she'll be okay. Even JP, when he would come back the next morning, he would get her a donut. Yeah, I mean, yeah, she'd have to have something to eat by morning. But yeah, but also there was one moment where things were not looking good for Philippe and the others. Even, David, he started to panic, and he couldn't be in that room because a security guy was coming up. So he bailed, not intentional, nothing towards Philippe and such, but he just couldn't be there. It was too intense for him. I don't blame him, just, for some people that could feel that way, it depends. But, not just for Philippe, but, Jeff, I mean, he stayed with Philippe. They got under a tall, if I'm saying that right, because a sheet and such, you would see those in construction sites, you know what I'm saying. Tiles, yeah, that's it, yeah. They get under a tile, but where they are under this tile, they're right where the elevator shaft is. Oh, well, yeah, it is. And they even lost their two yellow construction worker hats, and, all that time, and up to that, when it was evening, they stayed there for a long time. I mean, they had to. I mean, that security guard wasn't going anywhere for a while. And even when the construction shoes that they were wearing, they were wearing out their poor feet, and they had to take them off. And thanks to Philippe helping take Jeff's shoes off, and even Philippe, he started to hallucinate, have a daydream where Jeff fell down the shaft. But thankfully he didn't, because Philippe, he regained consciousness from that daydream, and yeah, Jeff was still right there facing him. Whew, that was a relief for sure, and thank goodness it was a dream. I would imagine that, yeah, because anybody watching this movie, they would think, oh my god, oh my god, it was just a daydream. But thankfully, when Philippe, he uses a pen to make a hole through the tile, there's no sign of the security guard, except for his walkie-talkie sitting on a chair. Where's the security guy? But thankfully, as time goes on a little, thankfully, the security guard did finally leave. Or did he? And eventually, they finally make their way up top. But the security guard, he's technically still there, but he's in another area of the room they're in. But yeah, he's on a different chair, and he's asleep. Yeah. And yeah, eventually they make their way up and making hand signals to Jean-Louis and Albert. And thus, they start to throw the wire and cables, but at one point, the wire and cables, they slip and they start to fall down, but thankfully, they stop them. But, they start to not succeed and have some difficulty trying to get it up, but thankfully they do. Then there was at one point where Albert, Ben Schwartz's character, he bailed, he quit, he couldn't take this anymore, so he called it quits. But thankfully, of course, Jean-Louis on the other side of the building still remained and such, and whom else would tag along, would be with Jean-Louis and such, helping out with this. And still, to speed things up because, when morning hits and, well, JP shows up once again, giving Annie a donut, like he said, and, the ropes are now attached and such, and Philippe is just about ready to do what he dreamed of doing, And by putting on his wardrobe, unfortunately, there's one moment where he loses his costume, a black shirt being his costume, it slips and it starts to fall down, and Annie thought that was Philippe falling, but no, it was just a shirt. And Philippe, he's upset by this because he wanted to wear his costume, but now he can't, and now he has to wear what he's wearing. It's still black, but not the specific black he wanted to wear. But even though he lost his costume, he's still gonna do it, and thus he does. And so, after all that time, we finally see in this movie Philippe going from the South Tower to the North Tower. And Annie, JP, and even, Barry was there too, noticing this, and even Annie getting everybody's attention to look up and see that, this daredevil is, on a rope and going from one tower to the next. He succeeds, going from one to the next, But then, there's a moment with Philippe, and as he's narrating this to us, the South Tower was calling back to him. And thus, he makes his way to the South Tower, going back to the South Tower. But it was bound to happen. It was bound to happen. Policemen show up. They handcuff Jeff. And also, Jeff, early on, Philippe gave Jeff what Papa Rudy gave him, the string and such that was once Papa Rudy's grandfather's, and telling Philippe to guard it well and such. And Jeff promises. So, again, Jeff unfortunately gets handcuffed, and, thankfully a little later, Jean-Louis and the others, they manage to not get caught by the police. They avoid the police, and they make their way downstairs. Good on them. For quite a while, Philippe is still out on the rope, taking his time, and giving the policemen and the security guards giving them heart attacks, and with the stick that he has, because they use those, just like, and just like, God, he's freaking them out, even when he puts it down on one of his feet, and just like, God, but he's not falling, not once, even when, or even early on in the film when he was practicing and so on, and on ropes, there were times that the ropes would shake and such, and just, but up to this point, and with the towers, he's managing, he's doing great. It's amazing, and, again, the visuals, and when we see Joseph Gordon-Levitt out there, it's amazing. Even when Philippe, leans down and just staring at the sky, and even when a bird shows up, it's a seagull, seagull, making direct eye contact with Philippe and such, and just, But, and it's obvious that Philippe wasn't gonna stay on the wire, rope, and such forever. Even when a freaking chopper, a chopper shows up and telling him to get off the rope and such. And ultimately, Philippe, he starts to make his way back to the South Tower. Even when the security guards and the policemen, they told Jeff to tell Philippe to end this, speak in French and such, And not to mention that, Jeff and the others, they knew how to shoot rope, with an arrow, because there was one moment, and good thing I remembered this, where the bow and arrow with the rope and such, the string, with the hand signals, it was, having it shoot from the North Tower to the South Tower, and Philippe, he ducks and covers, but he didn't hear the sound of the arrow hitting. Where is it? And he starts to feel for the string everywhere. Where could it be? He even is butt naked to feel the string. Well, there's a reason, but still. But thankfully, he spots the arrow and, yeah, bravely getting it and such. Just, yeah. Couldn't forget to mention that. So, yeah. And Philippe, well, with the last dangerous stunts that he pulls on the rope and some specific words he says to the policemen, like thanking them for their patience and such and introducing him, and yeah, he then finally finishes the crazy stunt and he is handcuffed. Yeah, he's arrested. Him and those that, well, it's just him and Jeff. They're the only two that got caught. And, well, everybody down below, you know, from Annie, JP, and Barry, and all the citizens of New York, they applaud and give Philippe a standing ovation, and Annie is very proud of her Philippe. And, well, even when the police and the guards, they take him in, the construction guys, they applaud him too. And even when there's one moment where Philippe tells them not to be careful in a specific way to detach the wires and such, and that's what happens. One of the security guards listened to Philippe and, yeah, nice. Because, yeah, there would be specific ways to detach ropes and wires and such, right? Yeah. And with Papa Rudy, with his help, like 3 that he told Philippe specifically to use. Yeah, 3. Anyways, yeah. And, well, Philippe then being interviewed by the press, and, yeah, even some of the policemen, they were complimenting Philippe. That was nice to see. And Jeff giving him a little applause, you know, even with him being handcuffed to a chair, and showed Philippe that he still kept it safe and sound. The string and such from Papa Rudy, his grandfather, yeah. And Papa Rudy, well, according to Philippe, Papa Rudy, knowing about this, and he was proud. He was very proud of Philippe. And according to Philippe, narrating, whenever Papa Rudy gets angry, he gets angry. But when he's happy, he gives his dogs treats. Okay? All right. And like I said earlier, couldn't we have seen a moment where we would see Philippe's parents see what their son did? I'm just saying. And here's the thing, because not every biopic and such will be very faithful to what happened in reality, okay? So I don't know. If you get what I'm saying, just maybe. But it still turned out fine. Just, you know, I mean, so much for Philippe's parents in this movie. Anyways. And, yeah. And, well, after what Philippe did, and even after he got arrested, he was let go. And, well, Guy Tozzoli, if I'm saying his last name right, being played by Mark Camacho, yeah, like being a part of the Twin Towers and such, and so on, yeah, because complimenting and praising him, and even the mayor of New York, having Philippe perform at, I believe, yeah, Central Park and such, you know, in New York, you know, the Daredevil stuff and such for the kids and so on, yeah, for free. And, well, Philippe and his fellow members, like, celebrating a toast, and, well, now everything's changed. And with the World Trade Centers, and Annie, who said it best, that, you know, Philippe gave them life, you know, just, yeah, what she had to say, yeah, well said. Yeah, because Philippe was responsible, technically, for making the World Trade Centers famous and being a center icon of New York, like right next to, say, the Empire State Building, the Statue of Liberty. Need I go on? So, yeah. But, unfortunately, when things looked really great for Philippe, well, sadly, some of his friends, even his beloved Annie, they moved back to Paris, France. Yeah. Yeah, and especially Annie, because, yeah, she was there from the beginning and end, you know, helping Philippe accomplish his dream, and now she's going to do hers, and, yeah. It's a shame. And not to mention that, well, Philippe, he chose not to go back to Paris, France, and become a citizen of New York. Yeah. And yeah, it's very emotional. They're them saying their goodbyes, but they, obviously they still love and care one another, even though they're going their separate ways. It's unfortunate. But yeah, well, Philippe continuing doing what he loved best, even signing his signature on top of the South Tower. He even got a pass to whenever he did, and he always did, like, pay a visit to the South Tower and go up top whenever he wanted to. Yeah. And the fact that, he would never do this kind of thing again. He even made it very clear to them that he wasn't going to. So, yeah. And well, the pass and, like, I guess for New York and the towers, like, the very last bit of narration that Philippe gives us, well, he establishes that, well, I think, yeah, the mayor and such, like, signing it to forever. Like, yeah, there's not giving it an expired date. This is forever and such, and yeah. And that was just a great way to end off the film right there. And as the screen starts to fade, and all that's left that we see are the Twin Towers, yeah. The light that's shining on them from the sunlight, and yeah. And the credits roll. Again, what a great way to end off the film right there. Yeah, The Walk. It's really good. I really enjoyed this film from beginning to end. Yeah, with a great cast of talents and whom portrays who, with Robert Zemeckis' direction, the music and score by the one and only Alan Silvestri, the actual Philippe being involved in this, rightfully so, and also personally training Joseph Gordon-Levitt, nice. And again, this being based off of a book of Philippe's, and the visual effects in The Walk, as I've said, fantastic. And I almost forgot to mention that one security guard, like, that was running the elevator, yeah, because he said to Philippe, watch your fingers. Yeah, so, yeah, with funny and emotional moments, with amazing moments, and with the visual effects, and with what Philippe does, and when he makes his dream come true, going from one tower to the next, and how it would all end pretty well, but still, a few sad moments, like, yeah, parting ways with those that helped him out, even his beloved Annie, yeah. And again, from the talents of Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Ben Kingsley, Charlotte Le Bon, James Badge Dale, Ben Schwartz, Steve Valentine, Benedict Samuel, need I go on? Everybody was fantastic in this. Everybody who worked on The Walk, yeah, just everything about The Walk was really good. And I'm giving The Walk, well, what the heck? It's on my mind. I'm giving it, 8 out of 10 stars. Yes, 8 out of 10 stars for The Walk. And what about you guys? What did you think of The Walk itself? Do you think that this was a pretty good biopic film, and on the story of Philippe and when he did that impossible, daredevil, crazy stunt, going from one World Trade Center to the next? Did you read the book that Philippe wrote? Any of you that got to experience this in theaters? And what were some of your favorite parts in this movie? Moments where you're like, oh my gosh, and did you get emotional and such? Just, yeah. Overall, what do you think of The Walk itself? And with what I've had to say, my review. And yeah, what did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And so, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of The Walk. More review videos are coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I will see you guys in the next video / review. And with that, Robert Zemeckis Movie Week has come to a close. Yeah, this was fun, and with the selection of Robert Zemeckis films that I've reviewed, and yeah, can't wait to do this again. So again, thank you very much for watching. Take care, and another special batch of reviews are on the way. Peace out, and happy anniversary to the walk.